debate between foreign education and Indian is an eternal one. Which one is better than the other? Which one gives you an edge over the other, if at all? That's what we are debating on Crossfire today. I'm joined by Khagesh Gautam and Ramanuj Mukherjee. Both have studied law, while one has gone on to become a professor, the other is an entrepreneur. Khagesh, you're someone who has studied in an Indian university and has also gone abroad to do your post-graduation in law. Tell me, why do you feel the foreign education system is better than the Indian one?
That depends on what you mean, but if I was to pick three things, I would say the method or the process of educating the students is different, entirely different from what I've seen in India. The other thing is that the approach of the teachers, the professors, it's far more professional, as I have seen in India. And the third important thing is infrastructure is far better. Right. In a US university. Those three things combined give an effect which we don't find in India.
And you feel that the Indian universities, Indian colleges lack when it comes to these three things?
Most of them.
Right.
Most of them.
What do you have to say about that, Ramanuj Mukherjee? How do you contradict that?
See, I believe that there are certain inherent benefits of studying in India compared to the US. Like starting with the kind of competition we see here, the kind of stress a student is put through over like 12 years of school and then another 3 to 5 years or even 6 years of college. That's like just totally different ball game than what someone goes through in another country. But at the same time, perhaps that makes the Indian student someone who's really good at doing routine things in a very disciplined way, doing a lot of hard work, but whether it can actually create original thinkers, that remains to be, questioned. So it is difficult to say that emphatically say that Indian education system is the best in every way. Right. But like I would still say that there is a scope in the Indian education system for someone who's coming even from a village to get good education over the years, provided they have the initiative to get it and really stand up in the world and take their place, which many Indian students have done, as you can see all around the world. Even in those countries, in Western countries, Indian students are going.
Ramanuj,
and Khagesh is an example.
Time is up. I will come back to you. Khagesh, do you believe that the problem is with the mindset? The problem is with the mindset which says, does not encourage, the Indian education system does not encourage innovative thinking.
The problem is at two levels, the way I have seen it. First problem lies at the university or the college level immediately. The second problem, and I can elaborate on both of them, the second problem lies at a policy making level, which is a far more advanced level. Right. The problem at university level is, first and foremost, we do not have good teachers in India. Okay. That's a fact that has been accepted by...
Which is in addition to all the points that you already made.
Which is an addition, of course, but it's call it an addition if you will, but we do not have enough good teachers. We have very good students, dedicated students. We do not have enough good teachers. For example, I mean, there is a saying about, some German general said this about British soldiers in World War II, lions for lambs. Nowhere I have seen such lions led by such lambs. Second is the problem of vision, which we don't have. Now, I have seen there is some legislation pending in the parliament, and I've gone through the reports, parliamentary reports, which project a vision, but it's lacking as of now.
Khagesh, Ramanuj, what do you have to, how will you contradict that? Because the kind of points that he's making are very valid. The kind of education system that we have, the kind of students which are coming out of universities and colleges, if you go by the National Employability Report 2013, it says close to 50% of Indian graduates are unemployable, which is perhaps a result of all the problems that he mentioned, all the concerns that he stated.
See, I think we are just looking at one side of the problem, okay? On the other side, like for example, Khagesh studied law in USA, right?
So did you. I mean, so you did not study in India, USA, right? But yes.
But at the same time, you will see that a huge number of US lawyers are debt-ridden and without jobs, right? People who studied law are actually working in McDonald's in some cases. Like there have been stories like that. And there are horror stories, right? And another big problem that this kind of education system, which we are emulating to a great extent right now, that it brings a lot of opportunities with a lot of problems, okay? And we have to see that we are not United States. We have our country which has a different kind of demographics, its own set of problems. To trying to solve it by just importing a certain kind of education system, we have to take the good stuff of it. Look, I'm not a great fan of Indian education system. Right. I believe that it has a lot of shortcomings.
But at the same time, you will admit that, a lot of industrialists, a lot of intellectuals are a product of this system and have made their mark on the world in different fields.
Exactly. But the question is that whether they did it despite the education system,
Right.
or was there something which is an unplanned X factor in our education system,
Right.
which pushes people to be really good at what they do, or maybe it pushes people to be individualistic, different, because they do not depend on the system. You know,
Right.
they are self-sufficient. They work on their own. They find their own material for success.
Right. Khagesh, the problem of innovative thinking, the problem of the fact that it's an assembly line education system, while you go to a kindergarten, you go to primary school, secondary school, graduation, post-graduation, there's so many different things that you do, and the end of it, if you still are not employable, don't you think that's like a big proof of the kind of system that we have in place?
Well, that just supports the point that I made, but I'll say two things in response.
Right.
First is a very small quote from one of the legendary lawyers that we have had in our legal history, Nani Palkhiwala. Now, Nani Palkhiwala was a great lawyer. He argued many constitutional cases, but he went to Government Law College, Bombay. But when asked, and many of his contemporaries were barristers who had obtained their legal education in England, and somebody once asked him, wouldn't you have loved to go to Oxford and be a barrister? And he said, it's not where you study,
Right.
but what you study that matters. Having said that, an example is often made out of Satya Nadella. Now, Satya Nadella didn't become what he became because he's a product of Nain. He became despite that.
Right.
Let's not forget that fact, and that fact is applicable across the
You
board.
do not give any credit to the education system that he's a product of, but at the same time you're criticizing based on the product, based on these 47% people who are not employable.
Yes, I was coming to that. Now, they're not employable. It's an unfortunate situation, but the problem can be fixed. The problem can be fixed if we start imparting them skills which are needed for the industry. For that, we need people who are equipped to teach. For that, we need to start paying them better.
I like the optimism, but Ramanuj, tell me, the kind of number of people that we have in this country, we need schools, quality education institutions, of course. Do you think that will be possible to sort of, match the India growth story?
It will definitely match, but it will probably not match in the way we are thinking. There has to be different alternative models which work, and it's already happening. As we speak right now, there are people who are experimenting with education in a way that people have not thought in the West. Okay, people are going down to what actually makes people successful. What is education? They're asking fundamental questions, and I'm very optimistic about what is going to happen. It is not more colleges and more schools are not the answer. We have assembly line education in India,
Right.
which is the problem in Indian education. That is, more assembly lines are not going to solve our problems. The problem is with quality. The problem is with people being able to think independently, and that kind of environment will not be created within our schools and colleges. It will come from something else, and we have examples. I like to tell you a story if you give me an opportunity.
We'll just hold on to that thought. Khagesh, let's talk a little bit more about why you went to Columbia, why you went to another country to pursue your education. What were the reasons? Because that will perhaps also give us a clue in terms of...
In my particular case, the decision was I wanted to study a particular subject, which is comparative constitutional law. I write about it, I teach it, and I made a judgment call. Comparative constitutional law is not done in India the way I hope it was done, because our Supreme Court is one of those Supreme Courts that openly cites foreign Supreme Court opinions. This is a gold mine to actually study, but we don't have theory. I thought if I go abroad, I will have a better grounding. Then I learn the theory and I come back to India and I'll start doing research, which I'm doing right now.
Right. Oh, research is an interesting point. This is one of the common themes which comes up invariably whenever you're talking about the education system that you have in the country and the education system that you have in other countries abroad. What do you have to say about the research opportunities? First, I'll start with Ramanuj and I'll come back to you. Yeah.
See, research opportunities in India, obviously there, but it's very often very routine. Okay, people do not have the ambition, do not have the resources, do not even have the right kind of incentive or the right kind of intentions to do research. At the same time, there's a fantastic research happening in India, in
Right.
pockets. But that doesn't mean, like, I can speak about legal research. I know a few academics who are really researching, Khagesh being one of them.
Thank you.
And like creating knowledge, right? But more knowledge is actually being created outside the academia. In legal industry, we see that a lot of knowledge is being created by private players. and people are coming up, like, creating intellectual property. Publishers are really leading it, and then there are like online content creators who are really leading the content creation, intellectual property, and research. And at the same time, people who really are serious about their research often want to go abroad to research. But this is, at the same time, I cannot say that the research in India is at par with the world.
Should that reflect the fact that people who want to go ahead and do their researches are going abroad as a shortcoming of the system, or what is it a sign of?
It is a sign of like inability of Indian education system to bring
And you're
together.
conceding that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Right.
I am not here to make points which are absurd.
Right.
But I am going to talk about the best things about it. For example, let's take the example of George Drees, right?
Right.
He's a foreigner. He's in India to research. There are other people from other country coming to India to research, and the fact that there are excellent research opportunities provided you are willing to look at them.
Right.
And probably the biggest problem with our education system that we are being unable to inspire our students to look at those opportunities, to consider what an unique position we hold in the world today and the real work that can be done in India.
Right. And entrepreneurship is another aspect. The fact that the kind of risk-taking atmosphere, or the risk-taking rather, I should say, qualities are encouraged in perhaps say countries like US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, which is not really the case here at large. Or any of you want me to contradict on that, because you are an entrepreneur.
I want to contradict.
You want to, yes. So please go ahead.
So see, I have personally visited more than 50 engineering colleges around Delhi. Like we were doing some sort of a joint exercise with IIT Delhi. They have an entrepreneurship cell, and I was visiting these engineering colleges around here. I also visit a lot of law schools and business schools, and I have seen there is great enthusiasm among students to pursue entrepreneurship, to create something new, to create web-based businesses. There is fantastic number of people are really serious about this and wants to pursue this. But at the same time, what we are lacking, okay, I'll be very clear about it. Let's say when I hear from my friends at Stanford who are starting something, what happens, there is an ecosystem over there. Around Stanford, there is an ecosystem of professors, startup founders.
And the startup revolution in the country is a very new one, but at the same time, it's picking up at a very fast pace. So those are perhaps like really positive signs. But what we will do is this: we will talk about the solutions, possible solutions, and the way ahead. Last few thoughts. We'll start with you, Ramanuj, and then I'll come back to you, Khagesh.
So I wanted to tell you a story, right? So I met this really young fellow in Chandigarh, and all of a sudden in a social setting, and I asked him, "What do you do?" He's a filmmaker. So I asked him, where did he study? And he didn't go to a school, the normal school. He didn't write his board exams. He did not, go to a normal college. He went to alternative schools and alternative university called Swaraj University, where he learned filmmaking. And now he's doing fantastic work. He's sought after person, and I could not guess. Like, it was a moment of enlightenment for me, because I believe that whatever you do, no matter how much you know, you have to go to the college, you have to get a degree, you have to get a school, certificate. But this guy doesn't have any of that.
True for an individual, but do you think that it will hold true for the kind of population that we have, the number of graduates going to colleges? Khagesh, your concluding thoughts.
My concluding thoughts: if we want to encourage research, we have to do two things, just 2 points. First is start paying the people in the institutions, universities, I mean, more money. You will not have talent if you're not paying them more money. Case closed. Second point, the research that is
Just
done.
like a lawyer, huh?
Well,
in this case, like a judge.
Well, in this case, why shouldn't we pay our judges more?
Right.
Right. They serve a function which provides value.
The last point. For another
the last
debate,
point
perhaps.
the last point was the research that is done has to be useful to the society.
Right.
That was the last point. I can elaborate, but we're running short of time.
On that note, we will conclude. But don't go anywhere. There's a lot more coming up on the other side.